All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the final concurrent session of the day. Economic software for today's students. Our presenter today is Kate Sharp of Hawks Learning. If you have any questions for the presenters during the session, please feel free to enter those into the Q&A section at the bottom of the Zoom room screen, and we will address them at the end of the talk. We're also giving away 3 $25 Amazon gift cards at the end of the session. To enter for a chance to win, click the link in the chat and enter your name onto the prize wheel. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to our presenter.
All right, thank you, Shriver. Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Sharp, and as Shriver mentioned, I will be doing our demonstration today. We are going to be going over the Hawks materials for Intro to Psychology. So let me share my screen and we can walk through that together. As I'm going, feel free to put any questions in the Q&A or the chat, and we will address them at the end. But what we are looking at right now is the Hawks student dashboard. So this is essentially the home page for us. Anytime your student goes to see what they're enrolled in and access their course, this is what it would look like. A few things at the top of the screen to mention before I dive right into the software is the grades tab. Your students will be able to see all of their up-to-date grades with Hawks here, and grades as well as assignment due dates will sync over to your school's LMS system. So we do integrate with Canvas, Blackboard, Moodle, and D2L Brightspace. So that is not a concern. eBooks is right here. That is exactly what it sounds like. That's where your students can access their ebook for the course that they're enrolled in. The discussions tab is really up to you how much or how little you'd like to use it, but we do offer a live chat feature as well as a discussion board. The live chat became popular during COVID, especially for instructors to house virtual Q&A sessions before an exam or virtual office hours, things like that. And then the discussion board is where you can make posts or have students make posts and thread responses below. The bell will notify your students of any assignments that are upcoming or past due. And then with the envelope, you can also message your students directly through the Hawks platform. Here where my name is in the drop-down, we also house our live support and our training video. I always like to mention support at Hawks because it is something so important to us here. We offer 24/7 support for you and your students. We offer phone hours from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday Eastern Time, again for you and for students. We pledge that if you call that phone number, a live person will answer the phone within 4 rings to get you the help that you need. I always like to say no robots here, just people. Obviously, you might need us, or your students more likely may need us outside of those phone hours. So for that, we offer a 24/7 live chat. And again, there is an actual person on the other end of that chat. We also offer free and unlimited training and support for you and your students. So all that to say, we care about you at Hawks. We want to make sure that you succeed and your students succeed. Here under my courses, your students will see all that they're enrolled in. So I have our Intro to Psychology materials pulled up. Right off the bat, your students will see a mini to-do list letting them know what's due today, within the week, or later, so that they know what's on the horizon. They can access any of these lessons directly from these links, but we'll click View Course. And that is going to bring up your students' comprehensive to-do list of everything that they've been assigned for the semester. So this is going to include homework, tests, quizzes, projects, anything and everything. And these headers are also customizable. So where you see due today, within the week, or later, you could change these to chapters or modules, really up to you. The lessons tab is specifically the homework that your students have been assigned. So if we click into one of these lessons, this is the Hawks 3-step learning path. Anytime your student goes to complete a homework assignment with us, no matter what class they're in, they're always going to see Learn, Practice, and Certify. We tried to keep our student interface really simple and user-friendly. Hopefully, nobody can get lost with just the 3 big buttons every time. We did this because we got so much feedback that students often don't like online learning platforms because they're hard to navigate or confusing. So nice and simple. The Learn mode is what houses the multimedia presentation of our textbook content. So everything that you and your students see, hear, and learn is going to match what's in the physical textbook or the plain ebook word for word. Two main differences. Number one, we include some interactive components, which I'll point out. And number two, we've only pulled out, in this case, the 16 pages of content for the lesson, rather than opening up the whole ebook that may be a couple hundred pages. So try to make it a little more bite-sized for your students. But I did mention interactive components. You can see right here, we have a link to our pre-made verified Quizlet sets. We do have those for the title. We will include Quizlet sets for any of these relevant definitions or concepts, so your students have the ability to practice with those. We also have a watch button available on all of our Learn screens. If your students click watch, that is going to bring up the lesson level video for them, which is going to give them all the key takeaways for the lesson as a whole. These videos are fairly short. They're usually under about 5 minutes long. We got feedback if they're much longer than that, they do not get watched. So they are nice and to the point. These are great review tools as well if your student wants to come back and watch the lesson level videos before a test or a quiz. Continuing through Learn, I'll show you a few more pages, but we are, of course, going to bold any of the terms and definitions your students need to know. Lesson 5.2 is on classical conditioning. So, of course, we've got to talk about Pavlov's experiment with his dog. Here we have linked to an external website where your students can play a game to help condition the dog. Here we've linked to a video explaining classical conditioning. So any further resources that we can find that will have your students engaging with the material and with the course will certainly add. We also have these on your own activities scattered throughout, so your students can test their knowledge as they're working, make sure they're not missing any concepts, and those again will be scattered throughout. I also wanted to mention our customization options. You as the instructor have the ability to customize our content, and there are several different approaches you can take to that. Number one, you can completely replace any of our pages that you don't want to cover if you have some pre-built content that you would rather use. We also give you the ability to completely hide any of our pages. So if there's something that you don't want to cover, your students wouldn't even have to see it and get confused by it. Option number 3 for customizing is what you see here, a Learn screen note, which is indicated by this break in the page. When you add a Learn screen note, the top of the screen is all of the Hawks pre-created content, just left alone, but then the bottom of the screen is whatever you want it to be or whatever customizations you've made. You could make your notes something really simple, like, hey, students, make sure you're familiar with this chart up here. That's going to be on the test next week. Or you could make it a little bit more complex. You could embed a lecture video, as we've embedded a video here, one from YouTube. You could embed a PowerPoint, any sort of external link. My point being, you can really use these customization options to tweak the course and make it your own. We'll also include these everyday connections throughout, which is just trying to, again, make the content relevant for students, connect it back to things that they may have heard about or are familiar with and quote their real lives. This one is on classical conditioning at Stingray City in the Cayman Islands, and it just talks about the stingrays that swarm the tourist boats because they know that they're about to get fed. That is essentially the Learn mode. Your students will continue through using these on your own activities, reading the content, watching videos, and then once they feel good about the content, they can exit Learn and move on to step 2, which is practice. Before I jump in, I always like to mention practice is exactly what it sounds like. It is not graded, it's penalty free. By default, Learn and practice are not graded and they're not required. Certify step 3 is the graded required homework. The reason we don't require these two steps is because we don't want to penalize any student who can go straight to certify and make an A by forcing them to spend time here. On the flip side of that, we also know you've probably got some students who should spend time in those modes, but maybe won't if they're not required. So we give you as the instructor the option to require practice in part or in full before your students can attempt to certify. So jumping into practice, keep in mind this is not graded, but all of the question types your students see here in practice will appear for a grade and certify. So there are several different features to point out. First, we do have a skip button. So if your student is comfortable with one concept or question type, they don't have to spend time on it. They can move on to something else. Let's actually read this question. It asks us to consider the following scenario and identify which sentence in the paragraph best illustrates acquisition. This is one of our click to select questions. Your students can just hover over the different sentences within this scenario, click to select the one they think is right, and submit their answer. Now, obviously, that was the incorrect answer. If it was right, this bar would just be green and say great job or something to that effect. But we really think we set ourselves apart with our explain error feedback. We know that there's nothing worse as a student than being told their answer is wrong, but they have no idea why it's wrong or what they should have done differently. So we're going to intervene the moment your student makes a mistake with this explain error feedback. We're going to tell your student, here's what you answered. Here's what you were asked to do. Your answer is incorrect, but we don't stop there. We tell them your answer is incorrect because it does not identify the point that customers learn to connect a neutral stimulus and an unconditioned stimulus. So explaining to your student exactly why their answer was not correct. At that point, your student can go back to practice, click try similar, keep working with this question type, or maybe they need a little bit more help. We also have a tutor button. And if you click tutor, that is going to bring up 3 tabs: hint, learn, and solution. The helpful hint will usually provide your students with any sort of relevant definitions. In this case, they've been asked to select the sentence that best illustrates acquisition. So they certainly can't identify it if they don't know what it is. We are going to remind them of the definition of acquisition. Learn mode is also built back into Tutor, which may seem like a small thing, but we get great feedback from students about this, simply because if they want to go back and review something in their textbook or ebook content, they don't have to stop what they're doing, exit out of the practice, pull up the ebook, flip to find the content. It's just seamlessly integrated for them right here. And then lastly, your student can always view the correct answer, but keeping with the Hawks mentality that it's the why behind the right or wrong answer that's so important to student learning, we are going to tell them the following answer is correct. This is correct because, and again, provide them with that explanation. We just never want them left wondering. At any point during the tutor, your student can click back to practice. Of course, once they've seen the correct answer, they're forced to try a similar question and they continue working in this manner. The last thing I'll mention about the practice mode is our send to instructor button. This is an optional feature. By default, it is turned off, but if you opt into it, you can choose to link with your email address. And if your students click the send to instructor button, the software will take a screenshot of the question that they're working on and put it in an email draft to you. So at that point, your student could say, hey, professor, I'm stuck on number 5. Can you help me? And you could see exactly what your student was seeing rather than trying to type it out. So just a convenience feature for you there. After your student has worked through the practice mode and they have been through the content in the learn mode, hopefully now they are ready to attempt for their homework grade. So they come on over here to step 3, which is certify. There are 2 main things to point out about certify. Number 1, it looks and acts almost exactly like the practice mode. The main difference is that we have removed those learning tools from the bottom of the screen. The reason we do that is absolutely not a punishment. It's for your students' benefit. I'm not sure if this is something that y'all have experienced, but the number 1 complaint we hear at Hawks is instructors saying that their students might be doing very well on homework and very poorly on quizzes and tests. and they want to know why those grades are not translating. Most online systems allow your students to use learning aids on graded assignments. And in and of themselves, those tools are good and they do help your students learn, but they can also very quickly become a crutch. And your student might not even realize how reliant they are on that external help until they get to the test or the quiz. It's not there and they realize, gosh, I can't actually answer that on my own. So that's why we remove those here in homework while it's a lower stakes environment. The second thing we do is we make Certify mastery based. What we mean by that is by default, we've set a mastery level at about 80%. Like everything else with Hawks, that is customizable. So you can choose to raise or lower that mastery level as you see fit, but we typically recommend about 80. So with 20 questions as just the default in this lesson, you can absolutely adjust that as well. And an 80% mastery level, your students can look at the red heart in the corner, which is meant to be like their lives left in a video game, see that they can lose 3 lives or miss 3 questions and still earn a 100 for having mastered this homework assignment at that 80% level. So as your students work, this meter will fill up towards the gold medal at the end, and as they make mistakes, their life count will decrease. So we gamify the homework as much as we can, and say that your student missed a 4th question in this example, or they dip below the mastery level that you have set for them. It's not just a bad grade. That is where we bring in the adaptive remediation component of the platform. So if I'm the student in this example and I miss a 4th question, the software is going to take me out of Certify, put me back into practice mode, where I'm going to receive a custom question set based on what I got wrong here in Certify. So it's really tailored to each individual student and what they specifically need more work on, while not making them focus on things that they've already mastered. But keep in mind, once they're back in the practice mode with their custom question set, they have access to the learning aids again. So at that point, if they need the tutor, it's there for them. If they miss a question, they're going to receive that really detailed explain error feedback. They can try similar as much as they need to, remediate all they need to. And then once they feel good about what they missed and Certify, they can come back and try again. We do give your students unlimited Certify attempts up until the due date. The reason for that is we think homework should be a lower stakes learning environment than a test or a quiz. Homework is where you want your students making their mistakes and learning from them and having multiple opportunities to learn from them and succeed, so that by the time they get to the test, they won't repeat those same mistakes. With this mastery-based framework, we do tend to see homework to test scores correlating much better. So with that is our 3-step learning path. Again, anytime your student goes to complete an assignment with us, this is what they'll see. Of course, the content will change based on the lesson, but the interface is always the same, easy 3 modes, so nobody can get lost. But if I return to the course, that was the lessons tab. Again, that's our homework. I also wanted to show you the web test tab. This is where any quizzes or tests would be assigned for your students, and they would appear in the drop down. I just don't have any pre-built and assigned here. What I did want to show you is our practice web test tab. This is something that is always available to your students, and honestly is a very popular feature with students. They have the ability at any point to come and create their own practice test. So they can name it anything they want. Maybe let's name this midterm practice. They can select from the drop-down menu what lessons and content is going to be on that test. Let me add some for maybe chapter 6. And then maybe you told the student that that's going to be a 10-question test and they're going to have 30 minutes to complete it. They can just select all of these things and click start. And the software is going to generate a practice test for them that looks and acts very much like the actual test environment. So off the bat, you can see at the top of the screen, there is a timer that your students have the ability to hide and unhide. If that stresses them out, they do not have to see it. Let me just answer a few questions here, not even trying to get the right answer, but just to generate some data for us. I'm also going to skip around a little bit. So if I am skipping and then I want to go back to one, you can see we've got previous and next buttons. We certainly can do that. I'm going to answer a few more questions. And then I also wanted to show you, maybe you have been skipping like I have been, and your time is running out. Rather than having to toggle back and forth with the previous and next buttons, you can select the drop down, check the box for hide answered, and then go to just see the ones that you have left to answer. So when your student submits their assignment, obviously mine is incomplete. I haven't answered them all. For these purposes, I'll go ahead and submit, but this is great because your students can't accidentally forget to answer a question and submit. But once this loads here, this is the type of feedback that your students will receive. Right off the bat, they'll be able to see their score. So with my just blind guessing, I got us a 20, but at the bottom, your students will be able to see their overall and by lesson performance breakdown. This is really helpful because at a glance, your student can look at this and say, you know, I did really well on lesson 5.1 and 6.2, but I need to spend a lot more time on 5.2 and 5.3. So it helps them identify where their strengths and weaknesses are and where they should spend their time as they continue to study. They can retake this practice test as many times as they would like. They can create new ones, and they can also click review to review their attempts. So they'll be able to see what the correct answer for each question was. But again, keeping with our mentality that doesn't do your students a whole lot of good. It's the explanation that's really going to help them. If they click open tutor, they will be able to see the explain error feedback. Again, telling them your answer is incorrect because. And then the learn mode is built back in, and the solution with the explanation will be available to them as well. So again, we just never want to leave your students in the dark wondering why their answer was incorrect. They can return to the test, continue working through. Maybe they only want to see the ones they got wrong. They can go to the drop down and click hide correct to just see the ones that they got incorrect, or in my case, not answered, and of course can jump directly to those from there. But after your student is happy, they can end the review, they can go back to their course and continue working through more practice tests, through lessons, or whatever you've got assigned for them. The last thing I wanted to mention was our materials tab. The materials tab is an extra space where you can house any other course materials you would like to. So we see a lot of people house their course syllabus here, any articles or readings you have your students do, things like that. But I did want to point out here, we have put our Hawks support information that I touched on before with our 24/7 live chat and our phone number. And then we also have a psychology companion site that I wanted to show you. If your students come here, or you for that matter, this is where we house our chapter projects. We are going to have a project available for each one of our chapters. These are free and available for you to download as PDFs and print out. I just clicked on the Chapter 3 project, but as you can see, we'll define the purpose of the project, give your students their directions, list materials if there are any, and give them a checklist to guide them through this project. So this is a great way to get your students interacting in class. If you want to assign this in person, you could also assign this as extra credit outside of class or in a lab setting, really up to you. But again, these chapter projects are available. I also mentioned in the learn mode that we have pre-built verified Quizlet sets. Those, of course, are going to be linked within the learn mode, but this is another place that your students can access them all at once. They'll be able to see the Quizlet sets that we have for each chapter, and clicking the links will take them directly to those Quizlet sets to practice and play with. The last thing we have on our site companion site is our other resources tab. This is really fun. There's a lot in here. This is a genderbread person activity. It's a teaching tool for breaking down the concept of gender. We've got an article on husband training, psychology of ghosting, something your students are probably very familiar with that term, but just a lot of fun kind of interactive activities or articles or videos to supplement what you are doing in class. We've got the personalities test, just a lot here for you to use. But with that, I will go back to our course. That is really the majority of everything I wanted to show you guys today. We are doing really well on time, so I'm happy to take questions, or if there's anything else in particular anyone would like to see, please let me know and I'm glad to show it. Let me try and check my chat, see if I've got any questions in here. No questions in here, but make sure to check the chat to enter our Spin and Win Amazon gift card giveaway.
Yeah, so if anybody does have any questions too, I'll just give a quick reminder that Q&A box, you can put them in there. But since we do have time, I don't know if any of those resources, if you wanted to look through, show what some of those look like potentially.
Yeah, sure.
Really interesting for people.
We can definitely do that. Let's go to our genderbread person. Give it a second to load. It may not. I've been having really spotty Wi-Fi issues today, so I'm sorry if I can't get it to pull up. Let's see if I can get a different one. I have been having issues today, so I'm not sure this is going to pull up, but I'm so sorry, you guys. This is available for you.
Oh, you're fine. I totally understand the internet issues.
Yes.
Everyone else does as well.
It always happens at the worst time.
We did have one question that get posted though. They asked if you could share a little bit more about the guided notebook if possible.
Yeah, sure. So we do have a guided notebook that accompanies our textbook. The guided notebook is going to essentially be a workbook that accompanies the content within the Learn mode. So it's a great resource for your students to have out as they are working through step one, which is learn. It'll ask them questions about the content that they're going through in the learn mode, make sure they're not missing any concepts, test them on definitions. I believe it also is going to include some of those everyday connections and try to tie the material back to quote real life again for your students. You can often assign the guided notebooks as just notebook checks, for participation grades, just to make sure your students are doing it. You can also collect them and actually grade them. Really up to you how you want to utilize that tool, but there is a lot of opportunities and possibilities for how to use that within your course.
I muted myself. Thank you. We had another question come through asking about secure testing options and what we have available.
Sure, good question. So we do integrate with Respondus Lockdown Browser. I believe we also can work with Proctorio and ProctorU. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Shriver, but Respondus Lockdown Browser is one we see used a lot. We also give you the ability to restrict IP addresses if you want all of your students taking the test, say in the computer lab on campus. You can also, of course, password protect your test. You can choose when the test is visible and hidden for your students. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think those are the main ones, but we give you a lot of different options to certainly help make your test secure. We also, if you are assigning your quizzes and tests online, by default, every student in your class is going to receive the questions in a different order and slightly different questions. So if you have, two students sitting side by side, their number one might be the student beside them's number 7 or 8. You can, of course, choose to lock values in order if you would like, but by default, that's randomized.
Awesome. And since you did mention, I can confirm Proctorio, ProctorU, yes, as well as Honor And many of those are browser-based proctoring solutions, especially the ones that have a browser extension. You'll see that a lot with ones working with Chrome. HonorLock is a good example of that. Those work seamlessly. They're really easy to set up and great for instructor and for the students as well. It's a pretty quick process. So
Thanks.
yeah, absolutely. We did have another question here. So he said that they have a number of their own materials, but so would it be possible to add their own questions in to go along with ours?
Yes, absolutely. So everything we've walked through today has just been the student side, but on the instructor side of our platform, we have a tool called the Question Builder tool, and that gives you the exact same functionality as our teams as we're creating and authoring questions for you to write your own questions and assign them. And there are pretty much limitless opportunities as far as the question types. You can do multiple choice, true, false, click to select, open-ended, up to you. And you can actually assign those to homework or test.
So, and then I don't know if you mentioned at the beginning, that somebody else asked about the pricing for this title.
Sure. Let me stop sharing and I can actually pull up the pricing chart to make sure that I am quoting this correctly. 1 second. Okay, let me reshare. So this is going to be what the pricing looks like for our Intro to Psychology materials. It is $43 net to your bookstore for our software and our ebook. So everything I walked you through today plus more. Now that is direct to bookstore as far as pricing. Your bookstore will likely put their own markup on it. That varies by store, but we typically see it around 20% or so. But we sell it to them for $43. That does include lifetime access, which is quite literally for lifetime. Your students pay for that access code once and it's theirs forever. So their access does not go away at the end of the semester. If you've got a student who needs to withdraw from the class for whatever reason, take it again at a later date, they won't have to pay twice. If you would like to add on the guided notebook or the physical textbook, you can see the price jumps a little bit from there, just for those printed materials. But that's something you could always make optional for your student. They also have the ability to purchase their access code directly from Hawks Learning for $55.99, or if your school uses inclusive access, which is where your students cost of materials is included up front in their tuition. It's going to vary based on the inclusive access model your school uses, but we can absolutely work with that.
Awesome. I think that's about as clear as you could get right there. Thank you for showing me.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect question.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. But yeah, and then one more that did come through, they asked if we sync with Canvas, and if so, in what ways?
Yes, we do sync with Canvas. We offer single sign-on and deep linking. So all of our assignment grades and due dates would sync over. With the deep linking and single sign-on, your students would be able to enroll in their Hawk section via your Canvas section on the first day of class and get all set up with their access code. And then with the deep links, they would also be able to see, for example, lesson 1.1 is due in your Canvas section. Click on that link and it would take them straight to the Learn, Practice, Certify screen.
Awesome. And I will add to D2L, Brightspace, Moodle, Blackboard. We have integrations for those as well if anyone else in the audience is using those other LMSs. So, all right, but it looks like that was all the questions that we had. So thanks for the late questions coming in. We do appreciate that. Always love to be able to answer some questions. And so then I think it might be time we can go ahead and move over to our spin and win in a second. I will say a quick thank you to Kate for all the valuable information that you shared. And thank you for everyone who attended. We really do appreciate it. We actually just had another question. So we'll ask that one. Will this product work with ReadSpeaker? And I'm not familiar with that. Are you familiar with that, Kate?
I'm not, but we can jot that down and find out for you.
Absolutely. We definitely can do that. Yeah, we'll make a note of that. Sorry, I'm not familiar with that. So we'll definitely get back to you on that, Christina. Thank you for asking that question, though.
Yes, thank you.
All right. So with that, once again, thank you to everyone. And I think it's about time then to move on to our giveaways. These will be our last 3 spin and wins of the day. Each winner is going to receive a $25 Amazon gift card, and we can get started right here.
Shriver, do you mind oh, sorry. I'll let you go ahead and announce the first one and then I'll ask my question.
Congratulations, Joanne. Our second winner is Kay Clemens. Congratulations. All right, and our third and final one. The winner is, looks like it is Angel. Congratulations. All right, so this will conclude the final concurrent session of the day and our conference. On behalf of everyone at Hawks Learning, I just want to say a big thank you to all of our presenters and an even bigger thank you to all the attendees for being a part of IES 2023. We really, truly do appreciate this. Recordings for this year's sessions will be provided in the coming days, and you will receive an email when they are available. I'm now going to post a brief survey. It'll be about your overall experience at IES this year. We would love for you to take a minute and send us your feedback, and that will be in the chat. Now, if you haven't already, please don't forget to swing by the exhibit hall and say hello to the Hawks team. The booth will be open until 5 p.m. today, and that is going to be Eastern time. Now, what you can do is go in, view a quick 5-minute demonstration. You can request your t-shirt if you haven't already, and you'll be able to enter in to win the hourly giveaways, which are your choice of a $50 Amazon gift card, Ticketmaster gift card, or Barnes & Noble gift card. Also, in the spirit of St. Patrick's Day, you'll find a few golden coins throughout the conference website. So if you haven't poked around there yet, I really encourage you to do so. You can click on the coins and be entered to win an additional raffle. So once again, thank you for attending. We really do appreciate it. And hopefully we'll see you all at IES 2024.